and gentlemen, welcome to the 323. I am your host, Reid Murphy. Happy post Super Bowl funk to you and all, ladies and gentlemen. It's the full NFL season hangover that we're having. We usually do the Sunday hangover until the the Dan Le Batard show wanted to steal that and make it the Monday hangover. Whatever. We got the full NFL season hangover here, and we're doing it with the two best friends that anyone can have post Vegas hangover. We have Scott Ellia of the 323 College Shame Day and Zuhair Ali of the Animation Deliberation Podcast. Good to see you guys as always. And look, before we get into all the usual hijinks and the fun of everything, Super Bowl, Kansas City Chiefs, they won for the second year in a row. First repeat since the 03-04 Patriots. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the season. We'll talk about the commercials, everything, all the fun of it. But we do first have to dive into what happened just in the middle of this post-Super Bowl week, which was the Kansas City Chiefs having their celebration parade and gunshots ring out during this. It was a whole fun event that was happening. I kept getting great updates about, Chris Jones and Mahomes dancing and all this stuff. And then get the first update from Ari Mirov, my sports update, that there have been gunshots, there have been shots fired at the parade, everything's clearing out, people have been shot, and just every notification just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. I believe there were 11 people wounded at the time. The shooters that did this were apprehended and taken down. There's video of some getting taken down by fans during all of this, but you also had children who were shot and wounded, put in the hospital. There's only been one death reported as of this recording on Thursday night, but it was said from Kansas City police that a preliminary investigation found that the shooting at the Chiefs Super Bowl parade appears to be the result of an argument between two groups of people that ended in gunfire. The suspects being held have not been charged yet, and just through all of this, everybody does the usual thoughts and prayers whenever there's these shootings, these mass shootings, whatever happens at these things. But it's just enraging and bullshit, and it's exhausting to see this continuously happen. And we don't want to dive. I don't want to do that whole thing where we dive into the politics of it all and the ultra seriousness of it. But then it brings it back to these people who always scream at athletes of keep the politics out of sports. Keep it out of sports. I just want my sports. I want that coverage. I don't want to hear about, mass shootings. I don't want to hear about, racism. And I think this is a case, and I'll ask you guys if you believe that it's possible to keep politics out of sports in any case, or if it's even responsible to keep things like this out of sports and allow athletes to speak on it, allow sports journalists to cover it, because at the end of the day, to me, it always bleeds in, right? And this is the most literal time that it has. We've never seen this happen at a victory parade from any sport where you have a disaster of this type of situation of this level. And it makes you feel helpless to an extent, to where you don't know where are you supposed to be able to do anything without the fear of something like this happening now. But how do you all feel just about politics and sports and news and discussion of sports? Or do you want sports to be able to just wash over everything and be the distraction from other stuff? Or does it get dangerous when you allow sports to be a distraction?
I mean, I enjoy it as a distraction, but it's in any industry when people become that popular and that renowned and all eyes are on them, they take the opportunity to have a platform. So whether they, are going through something themselves or have experienced something that they want to share, you can't really harp on them for being human beings that have to live in the society, right? Yeah, we try to make the most out of them as for sports specifically as entertainers for 17 guaranteed games out of the year, but like they're human beings at the end of the day. It's I mean like all these reports from the shooting I was getting from ESPN, which I thought was the oddest thing. Like it wasn't any other news outlet that was going out of my phone. It wasn't the Apple News app that was like telling me anything on my phone. It was ESPN that I was getting all these pop-ups on. So I mean at the end of the day, like news is news. People experience either live things like for the amount of players and coaches and staff that were in this parade, like you expect them to go on the rest of their lives now, just like totally ignoring something that like directly affected them and their families. So as much as we would like for the world to be a happy place where we can just sit and enjoy sports, like that's just not the reality of it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Like I think it's a willful ignorance to use sports as kind of like the blinders to the reality of the world. These athletes, they're not robots out there on the field or on the court. They're human beings with opinions and thoughts and feelings about certain things. I mean, and they're entitled to those things. You might not like it, but you have to respect it. I mean, I'm sure, there's been times where me and Reid have had discussions, me and Zoo have had discussions. Yeah, sometimes it's about witty banter and really, irrelevant topics. But I mean, there's been times where serious things that come up and we don't necessarily agree 100% with things, but at the end of the day, you still should respect people's opinions. And, really what I feel like this is going to open up to is our teams going to start looking at these parades, these celebrations that should be about, celebrating the team and the success and, the banding a city together. Are they going to have to start rethinking how they're going to be going after this and having a repeat? Because if you look at the statistics to everything, I know it's only February and the 2023 stats haven't really came out, but I mean, 14 of the top 30 dangerous cities have major sports in them. So, Kansas City falls at like number 5 or number 6 as far as, dangerous cities in regards to like violent crimes. But, our team's going to have to pivot away from doing these massive parades, just doing like a, first come, first serve kind of celebration at the stadiums or like some kind of venue at that point. Because I can tell you, I mean, Reid, you work with kids. I have kids. Zoo's a kid at heart, like not, I already wouldn't want to bring them to that kind of a situation, no matter how big of a fan I was of whatever team won the championship. But this even further pushes me in the other direction. Like there's no way I'm going to an area with like, I think, what was the estimate? Like 1 million people were there.
It was about 1 million civilians. Yeah.
Right. It's like, there's no way I'm taking them out in that kind of a crowd because you have idiots like this who get in a scuffle and they completely forget their surroundings. They forget that there's 1 million people around them and it's not an isolated incident. You're going to have innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire.
Dude, I was at the Virginia Beach Convention Center last Saturday because they had the gun show over here. And one of the first booths that I saw when I walked in was ballistic padding that you could put in your kid's backpack.
That's what the craziest thing is to me. Like you said, I work with kids and we do intruder drills and active shooter drills with them, and they're just so like they're great at it. They do it just completely nonchalantly. They are quick about it. They take it seriously to an extent, but to them now, like to kids now, it's just like what a fire drill was to us.
Right. It's just second nature at this point, which is sad.
Right. Yeah, you're just ready for it. And there's sometimes like, and I get used to it too, but then there are just sometimes I just look at it and I was like, this is insane to me that this is the reality now. And I was with the kids while this was going down and just seeing the numbers and the news that there were kids separated, there were kids shot. And ultimately that's what's going to happen. What you said about, the death of the parade in whole, because instead of actual, some type of legislation being attacked towards, any discussion towards any type of gun control or, some type of legislation there, it will turn to the parade and be the parade's fault. And you won't see, I would bet that you won't see victory parades like this for sports anymore. It will be something contained to where police can know the entrances and the exits, because this could have been a lot worse. And it's big credit to the people who took down the shooters, but it's also just the scary fact that this was just a disagreement. This apparently some type of disagreement, a dispute, an argument. Don't know what the exact nature of it was, but it just seemed like these were strays that were being shot. Not anything with not intention to hurt these, the innocent civilians. And I mean, that's a massive wake up call to not only the NFL, but the police in these cities. And, when having these types of events, that this could have been one of the biggest disasters in our history in this country, even though there's been a shit ton of them over the recent years, which is awful and terrifying to think of. I'm sure there'll be more news from this. We'll have more updates on what exactly happened and probably more statements from the NFL, but ultimately everything is just going to keep moving on. We will try to attack the discussion at other times too, but we will get into what led to the parade and, that being Super Bowl week and all. It was a exhausting ass week last week. I don't
know how you survived with recording every single day and then, going into the weekend and then you had Super Bowl Sunday going on. I don't know how you survived.
Well, the fact that it was also just a visual, it was we're so visual heavy now that I didn't take into account. I was like, oh, I got to edit the visual part of the show every day down too. But it was fun. And I'm really grateful to you guys being there and to everybody that contributed.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Yes, exactly. Subscribe on YouTube, the 323 Network on YouTube, where you can see our beautiful faces. You can also see our beautiful faces in person. March 8th is what we're saying. We know it's March 8th, Friday, March 8th, 9:15 p.m.
That was loud.
Yeah, it needed to be loud because this is an exciting time. We're back at AwesomeCon. We're going to be there doing the Unfamily Geeky Family Feud. And we'll have more and more details on that. We'll have nice promos for it. But AwesomeCon in Washington, D.C., you can see us. Shit, you can see Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum of Smallville right before us in the exact same room. And then you can just chill and wait for us, which I'm already mentally preparing for their autograph line or whatever is going to happen after their show bleeding into our show. But shit, might get them to play the feud.
Well, there's that, and my thing is anyone scheduled to come on after us? Or are we the last ones?
I think we're the last ones in that room.
So
after party.
So based off of last year and how much we had to scramble to get everything together because the other people ran over their time, I think having a line form for their autographs wouldn't be the worst thing. At least that way it gives us time to jump on the stage and actually get everything put together, because they don't give you a big window.
No, they did not, and that's why we did not have music to accompany our.
And did they have something that we needed to hand out before the show too?
Mm-hmm.
We have answer sheets.
Yeah, so while the people are in the line, we could just be handing out the sheets. Yo, save this for the next segment. Stick around.
Hey, do you need something to be autographed? Here's this answer sheet. You can just hang around.
You're gonna have to hold on to it for the next segment, anyways.
Here's this QR code. Don't sign on the QR code. But No, it'll be a great time, and all of this leads into that. Last week was Super Week. We made it. We survived. Super Bowl has happened. The Kansas City Chiefs are the victors once again. Yeah, shaking your heads. It's shaking your heads. But it was, I think, an exciting Super Bowl. I think it was an exciting game. I think it was one of my favorites, even though it was pretty defensive heavy. But, man, I was stressed the hell out by the end of that game. I was on the edge of my seat watching.
You were stressed. You're the person you were viewing the game was probably more stressed than you were.
She gave up around halftime, just kind of gave in. She was like, yeah, this is, the 49, Brock Purdy, you can have it. And then once it started going, once they made that comeback, the stress was real over there. And yeah, I think the viewership for this was 123 million viewers.
Screw you, moon landing.
Yeah, exactly. This is the high. That's how big the NFL is. The NFL. This was the biggest event since we went to the fucking moon.
Listen, and they know how to market that, because I am now a proud subscriber to Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I'm right.
It was bigger than the moon because they had a star in the booth.
You beat me to the sound.
Oh my god. Well, I'll ask you guys just like your full reactions and thoughts from everything on this, from the Super Bowl, from the game itself, halftime with Usher, which I've got thoughts on Usher. I've got thoughts on that halftime show.
Swizz
I
Beatz
think
has thoughts on that too.
Swizz Beatz better have thoughts. I was disappointed by Swizz Beatz thoughts because that was questionable, and I was very surprised to see Alicia Keys, but also very pleased to see Alicia Keys. And yeah, Usher, Usher got in there. So we'll go over the commercials. I know Zoo's got commercial thoughts. I mean, I really want to get into the Kelsey stuff because I don't think CBS covered that nearly as well as they should have when that happened, of Travis Kelsey bumping into Andy Reid and screaming in his ear. Like, he almost knocked the poor old man over.
Mm-hmm.
And I could ask you, did Kelsey go too far? But the question I kind of have been thinking about, and from Chiefs fan Mama Murphy, who's very upset at Travis Kelsey for this. She does not like him for this. Did Andy Reid not handle it nearly as much or as well as he should have? Because it seemed like there was no consequence from that. I understand they love each other. They're probably going to monetize this into like a State Farm commercial where they're yelling about nuggies or something. But I didn't think. I thought he should have been benched for a series at least. Like, maybe not benched for the whole game. I know it's the Super Bowl. That'd be kind of crazy, but he should have been benched for a series. Just show him shamefully sitting on the bench or something. But I don't know what you all's thoughts regarding everything are, but whoever wants to kick it off can go ahead.
Big picture, it didn't really bother me too much. In the moment, it was kind of shocking, but like Kelsey got pulled on the play where, was it Pacheco fumbled in the end zone or fumbled right before the end zone? So it's like there's context around it, and like both of them came out and said like he felt bad about it and hugged them and apologized and this and that. Like, we don't know what the relationship is like off the field. This is a very high tension game. It's one that they've been to a lot. We said that they got here just due to grit alone because their offense wasn't holding up their end of the bargain. It was a shocker that their defense played as well as they did. So it's like and also, we said it was a very defensive game. Like, that's got to be ridiculously frustrating for both of these offenses as well because they just could not get the ball moving. So I don't blame him that you pulled one of the best players for one play, and then that one play like went to shit when like nobody was scoring for a while. So in the big picture of things, like, yeah, it's football, it's intense, but at the end of the day, like, it's not like he's consistently disrespectful to Reid. Like, we know how great of a relationship that whole team has. So it's at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. And the memes have been great.
Somehow it was Taylor's fault.
It's always Taylor's fault. But yeah, I'm just gonna take Andy Reid's lead. It's if he wants, however he wants to handle it, it's how he wants to handle it. And I think especially when you're on the biggest game of the year, yeah, you can send a message and sit him for a series, but at the end, what's that going to do? It's not going to really do anything. You would want to see him sit for the game, having that kind of a reaction, but he's always kind of had a track record to being explosive and being very reactionary and really wearing his quote unquote heart in his sleeve. But when you have all the lights on you, especially with Taylor Swift and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I was seeing a lot of comments and messages about, Taylor Swift after that should actually leave Travis Kelsey, showing his true colors. And, you don't want to be around someone who's going to be aggressive like that.
No, big red flags, red flag energy.
It's going to be the new Rihanna, Chris Brown.
But if you want to ask me my overall takeaways from everything, Super Bowl, halftime show, commercials kind of included, it's just going to boil down to one word. It was mid. The Super Bowl was mid. All the way around. The Super Bowl game, predictable. We all knew this was going to happen. The NFL is going to squeeze every fucking penny they can out of that cash cow in Kansas City. So when they went down 10-3 going to the halftime, I was texting one of my brothers, and he was like, "You think the Niners are going to get away with this?" Like, nope. They're going to come back. They're going to have overtime, and they're going to win it in some comeback fashion. Which leads me to another thing. How the fuck do Niners players not know the overtime rules in the playoffs? Like, that seems to be
that often.
Well, like, they have meeting after meeting after meeting. They go over these rule changes from top to bottom. Like, they should have known. And if they didn't know, then that's absolutely piss poor management from the San Francisco coaching staff. But other than that, Yeah, I mean, the commercials were meh. There's only like 3 that kind of stick out of my brain. Halftime show, meh. I enjoyed it. I liked listening to music. I got down a little bit, but I have my own feelings about how these venues should handle their halftime shows and what artists they should book.
Well, okay, so there's a lot to dissect into there. I would go back to the overtime rules thing first, which is, I mean, Kyle Juszczyk let it out that he said he didn't know the overtime rules. He didn't know the new rules. This was the first time that they've done these overtime rules since they enacted it back in I think 3 years ago of that Chiefs Bills controversial ending. And Kyle Shanahan kind of admitted that they didn't know it, but then he seemed to double down and say they did know it. He just did that on purpose because he wanted the third shot. He wanted to make sure that they have the third shot, which is also bullshit, or even worse, maybe it's dumber, because there's no guarantee that you get the third shot, as we saw in this game where they did not get the third shot because they took the field goal on the first drive, which I think at that point that's a fourth. If you have the ball on the first drive of this new overtime, you need to go for the touchdown. You can't settle for a field goal there, especially against Mahomes. We've all learned, like, this is one of my biggest things this year is to not doubt Mahomes. And at that point in the game, you know he's hot. You know that he's going to get down the field easily. I mean, we saw that when I think they had a minute 50 left and kicked it back to the Chiefs. I was like, oh yeah, this is overtime, easy. He only needs like 30 seconds to get in the field goal range. What the hell are they doing? They'll be lucky if they get to overtime with the Niners. But I mean, it's irritating with Kyle Shanahan. They use the defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, kind of as the scapegoat. He got fired right after the game, which you could kind of see happen during the game when I don't remember what play it was during the fourth quarter, but whatever defensive alignment there was, that you could see that McCole Hardman was going to burn the shit out of the 49ers. And Kyle Shanahan saw that too, called the timeout, and made Steve Wilks fix that. Like that, he was like, that's bad. That's bad. And it apparently happened again during overtime. So I guess it's a rightful scapegoat, but damn, Kyle Shanahan really is kind of like the new Andy Reid. Everybody's been saying it all week, but he really is now at this point. Andy Reid took forever to win a Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan has had 3 opportunities now, 2 as a head coach, and it just doesn't, like, something does not click in the second half. And I was very disappointed because you said it was predictable, Scott. And Zoo and I, the top 2 on Rick's versus Gricks postseason, we picked the 49ers. I had full belief in the 49ers leading into Sunday afternoon. I was all in. I was like, yo, that's like, Niners are going to get this first thing in 30 years. Like, there's no way, like the Chiefs will make it a fight, but there's no way they're actually going to win this. It can't happen. This is too scripted. It's too storyline. Then the game was progressing. I was like, oh yeah, shit, the Chiefs are going to win this. This is bad.
That's the bigger storyline, and that's why who actually ended up winning the postseason, Ricks versus Gricks.
Was it you? Oh yeah, because you got the tiebreaker. Purple Gatorade, Black History Month. But okay, so I want to dive into the commercials here with Zoo, and then we will get to the halftime show because I want to hear your halftime show thoughts, Scott, and how you can apparently you'll fix the halftime show. But
yep,
Zoo, the commercials, I kind of agree with Scott. I thought I liked them during the actual game. Like, I thought I was enjoying the commercials, and now thinking on it, not even a week later, I can't really remember any of them outside of a couple, including, I mean, the ones I remember the most were the trailers. And that's what it seems to be like every year, these debut trailers. So, Deadpool 3 geeks me out. But then I didn't know they were making a sequel to Twister. And I got very excited during the Super Bowl for Twisters. And when I saw that the name was Twisters, I was like, oh, this is going to be the 90s shitstorm of a movie I've been waiting for. This is going to be awesome.
Oh my God. I didn't even see that. I just Googled it. Fuck off.
Oh, it's great. Glenn Powell. Oh my God. He's going to be perfect. He's playing like overly cocky tornado chaser, and now they're chasing twins. Oh, it's going to be crazy.
I hate it.
But I mean, between that, like the only commercials like I can really remember were the Dunkings with Ben Affleck and Tom Brady and Matt Damon, which I thought was really funny. I think it was a YouTube TV commercial with all the bird team, all the bird NFL teams players like flying away and migrating for this year.
I wish I saw that one.
Oh, I think it was somewhere near the start. That was a really interesting one. And then one that the national audience wouldn't know, but I hope they seek out, which was it was in the DMV and it was for I don't know if it was like FH Fur Plumbing and Heating and Air or some heating and air, area for DC. And Joe Jacoby, famous Washington football legend, was in the commercial and just kept saying, you call, get your plumbing fix, just over and over. And it was just it was like this real kid friendly ad. And then like they're doing the jingle at the end, and you just hear like a shink, like an axe go down, and like somebody scream, and like this gushing, crunching sound. And the last part of the commercial is like some dude holding like his hand with like fingers chopped off and shit, and saying, I just lost half my hand. I need my plumbing fixed. And I don't know like what the hell it was, but it was like a horror show and a nightmare. The only thing I remember from the commercials now. So that was my thought on commercials. I think perfectly mid, like Scott said. Zoo, where were you with the commercials this year?
Yeah, commercials were mid. You mentioned two of the ones out of my list. So Duncan was awesome. It was just great seeing that cast and everyone goofing off. And one of the things that like the party that I was at was doing was everyone was trying to guess the brand before like the commercial unveiled it. So that kind of made it a little entertaining. But then by the time I got home from the night, like there was only one that I like genuinely remembered as being funny. So Duncan was funny in the moment. Deadpool and Wolverine, like that was really cool. The two that I really, really enjoyed, but I saw like the week leading up to the Super Bowl is the John Krasinski one where it was
Oh, that was
yeah, the Office
Trailer for
references.
Yeah.
So that one was really funny, but again, I saw it before. And then Aubrey Plaza's Mountain Dew commercials was great. That probably would have been my favorite commercial, like had I seen it on its own. So those four were great, but the one that like I hadn't seen yet and genuinely made me crack up was the Discover card of Am I a Robot? She was like talking on the support line. It was just kind of like, "Are you a robot?" She was like,
"Am I a robot?
Am I?"
Oh, is that the
How
Jennifer
do I
Coolidge
prove
commercial?
that to you? Like just the delivery of that line and the awkward silence and the shock of just contemplating life. Everything about that was like, yes, like given the parameters of me watching like all these commercials, like whether I had seen it before or not, this and that, like that one was definitely the best.
AI was like really heavy during this too, because there was like this one commercial for AI or I thought it was for AI and, the promotion of it and maybe like some new AI website. And then it showed that the people behind the AI sitting in cubicles were the minions. And it turned out to just be an AI teaser trailer for Despicable Me 4. And then, of course, we had AI Jesus washing feet and he gets us ads. I feel like Scott had something for those ads.
Yeah, and I'll try to drum up the passion that I did when me and you were ranting when I was just ranting about it before we started recording. But it blows my mind that a year in and year out the buying price to get a ad spot in the Super Bowl just keeps going up. It's never going to go down. It's always going to keep going with the market. But the amount of how many spots did you? I think I counted like 4 or 5 of those those ads.
Yeah, they were like a slight second to Temu or Timu.
Right. Fucking Timo.
Now I know the pronunciation of Temu.
Yeah.
But like the amount of money that they had dumped into running those ads, I feel like Jesus would have wanted you to give the money back to the community in some way, to be doing something, whether it's using the money for, homeless shelters or food banks or something. But no, you decided to buy 5-6 TV spots of Jesus washing people's feet.
But they gave it to another nonprofit organization, which is the NFL. I said that at the party, and everyone was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, NFL is a nonprofit organization."
But and then the only other commercials that kind of stuck out in my brain was a Duolingo commercial of the bird getting his butt pumped up and getting all nice and juicy. Did you not see that one?
No,
I did not see that one.
He was cheap. I mean, you want to talk about cake or caking? He was caking. He was thicked up. I'll have to find that one and send it to you. There's that one, and then there's the did you see the Kanye West commercial spot?
No, okay, was that real? Because I saw like a TikTok of that.
Right.
That
So I
Kanye
didn't think it was
had,
real.
I thought it was like in some areas, maybe.
Right. It might have been in some areas. So like that's where I saw it was on TikTok, but I missed like the first quarter of the game because I was trying to pirate the game instead of giving Paramount Plus my money. But they got it anyway. So maybe I'd missed it. But the other commercial that had to be just rolling was the Paramount Plus commercial with Patrick Stewart. Shut your mouth, Barrymore. And then he just throws Hey Arnold.
That was another one I saw beforehand.
It was so funny.
Paramount Mountain's always great. You can never go wrong with that. I love little crossovers.
What was the last part of it where it was like, oh, if only we had some real pig skin, and it goes over to
to Peppa Pig.
throw the child.
Well, okay. The final thing that we'll touch on here with the Super Bowl is the halftime show. And Usher, baby, he was on one during this. I'll say this about the show. I don't know how you felt, Zoo, and we'll get to Scott on it, but I thought it started out mid. I wound up actually liking this. I thought it started mid. I thought he did a few too many slow songs for the Super Bowl. I like his slow songs, but it's not working for me for a Super Bowl halftime show. And then it started to turn up. Alicia Keys very much caught my attention. We've gone over that. And then who came on after that? Was it her? I think her came on, which I bet in households across America was probably the greatest game of who's on first. Like the greatest new who's on first between kids and their parents who have never heard of her and are asking, who's she? That's her. Yeah, who is that? That's her. But I thought her guitar riff was awesome. And then they got onto roller skates, which that's what sealed the deal for me. It's high risk, high reward. Like you could have easily busted his ass, and I was expecting him to bust his ass at some point.
Also, it was genius that they had the stage to where, like, in the direction that they were skating, there was motion going that way to make it look like they were going like a lot further than they actually were.
Mm-hmm.
So from like a set design aspect, that was just incredible decision making.
Oh yeah, and then
I was like, they're only taking like 2 steps, like they're really not going that far, but it's like whoosh, whoosh.
Oh, the one that you're forgetting in between her and Alicia Keys is Jermaine Dupri because everyone thought it was CeeLo Green.
That's true.
Yeah, I had no idea who that was.
That's who it was.
I had no idea who it was in the moment. My mom asked if it was Little John. I was like, absolutely. I was like, you racist. I was like, that's closer to
you racist.
Like,
in February, Mom.
February. No, like he looked like the little lad who loves berries and cream.
Oh God.
But they went from that, and then Lil Jon like really got the shit going with "Turn Down for What," and then like screaming in the middle, "Turn down for what? Shit!" And just like live air, NFL got it through it. Ludacris comes out, has old heads going crazy all over the country. I thought it was an awesome end to the performance. Zoo, I don't know what your thoughts were on it. I'm curious to know from both of you too, like how you feel about just how TV made the Super Bowl halftime show is. Like, it doesn't feel like something that would be enjoyable if you're there, but it's like a fully TV made production now. Zoo, what were your thoughts from halftime?
I mean, but the way that they're making displays in these stadiums, like you can still watch it pretty comfortably, like from that TV perspective.
It's true.
Especially if you have places like SoFi and AT&T and all them. Like, yeah, I'm sure it looks great on the displays that they have there. But overall, like, I enjoy Usher songs, but I don't have like a huge catalog of them, if that makes sense. So I think I enjoyed like the second half of the show more than the first because more songs that I recognized started to come in. The whole thing about like they said I'd never be here, it's like you were there in 2011. Like you've been here before and you butchered that because you had a bad day and will.i.am had to do the song for you because okay, I mean you're back. I was excited. I was excited that it was Usher, and I think it was, just like the rest of the word of the day. It was mid. It was fine. I enjoyed the back half more than the first. Lil Jon and Ludacris was a lot of fun when they did come up. He's can still sing, he can still dance. Like I said, the stage production was incredible. I pay attention to that a lot. So overall, it was well done, but I don't think it's going to be one of my more memorable ones.
I completely forgot about will.i.am being there, Scott. I forgot, and I was worried for a second when he first came out that it was Kanye. Like I was a little scared. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Is this whole thing about Taylor getting Kanye removed from the Super Bowl thing real? Have you guys heard that?
I've heard rumblings.
Brandon Marshall says it's real. I haven't heard that from anybody else though.
Okay.
I don't know how Brandon Marshall would have known.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Leave him alone.
So yeah, it was a fine Super Bowl. Not a huge memorable one. The people that were at my party were just really mad that Justin Bieber didn't come up.
I mean, they had that rumored all like for the last couple days before the Super Bowl. Like they even had a flight tracking him to Atlanta.
When he was there, Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas. Yeah, the Atlanta of the West.
And you know what? And with you instinctively saying Atlanta leads me into my reasoning behind why the Super Bowl halftime show was mid.
God,
like you said, it was slow. Like you said, it was slow at the beginning. It definitely picked up the energy at the end. And side note, if you haven't looked it up, go back and rewatch when Ludacris is walking towards the camera this way, and you have all the strippers up on the pole doing their thing. Look to the left on the left. When she gets to the top, she just falls down. Like she falls off the pole at the bottom. So go rewatch that. So hopefully she's okay.
I didn't know there were strippers. I didn't know they were even doing that. I was so focused on Ludacris.
showed my cards.
Of course, this meme pops up as we're talking about this.
Oh, geez. I can only imagine what's in that thread right now. But yeah, like it picked up the energy, which is what you want to have in a Super Bowl halftime show. You want to keep the energy going because, I mean, you can see videos and like pictures of the crowds. Like you said, Reid, like these halftime shows are more geared towards the audiences at home. I mean, and the audio at home was even bad. I could only imagine what it was like in the stadium.
It was weird. Yeah.
And like you see these pictures of like people either just like standing there, not moving, or they're sitting there. And, you can get down to all the music that was playing, even with Alicia Keys out there, you can get down with that. But I feel like the biggest thing that the NFL is missing when it comes to booking the talent for these Super Bowl shows is tying it to the community where the team is at. So you're in Vegas. Like you said, when you think Usher, you think Atlanta. I'm getting so hyped up. I'm about to wreck my whole setup. But when you think Usher and Ludacris and Lil Jon, you think Atlanta. So that show would have gone off 20 times better if it was played in Atlanta. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And
no.
I'm just thinking about Shakira and J-Lo in Miami.
Right. And that's the same thing. Like you're tying yourself to kind of like that fan base. Like Miami is really big on, Latin culture and things like that. You're kind of tying it all together. So it makes sense. But
so what's the Vegas artist that you would have wanted?
I would have had the Killers and Panic at the Disco. I would have seen all those happy little crackers screaming the white boy anthem of Mr. Brightside. Would have been insane of having that. That's what I would have done.
Panic at the Disco would have been a lot of fun.
Panic at Disco and the Killers, you just have these random little artists kind of come up. That would have been, I feel, would have been a lot more entertaining at that point. And it leads me into going again next year. It's in New Orleans. If it is anyone but Lil Wayne, I will not watch the halftime show.
I mean, Lil Wayne needs to be involved. Like
if he is not, no, he needs to be headlining the halftime show. Him. Bring in Master P. Bring in anybody else you want to bring in. I mean, hell, Reid knows this name really well. Bring Trombone Shorty on there. Shorty.
I was just about to say, get that collection of Trombone Shorty, John Batiste, Gary Clark, a couple of those other New Orleans guys in there to like really set it off.
Right. You're gonna have these big brass bands kind of elements to it. The French Quarter and Bourbon Street kind of vibe to it. But like I said, like you're in a city, you should pay homage to the city itself with its music. So that's why it just felt like it just missed. I think I would have been more excited seeing Usher playing in Atlanta.
I was trying to remember who the Atlanta Super Bowl halftime show was. I was like, yeah, it was really Atlanta. And I looked it up. It was Maroon 5. So
Yeah.
Right, that was when they butchered the SpongeBob.
Yeah. But they did have Big Boy there, but not Andre. It was unfortunate.